Recorded live from the secret underground lair of Crimson Cowl Comics and Collectibles, this is the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast.
The following issues may contain spoilers. We herald your beginning. We herald your end. We herald this podcast. I'm Anthony.
I'm Kirby.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome to issue number 330 of the Crimson Cowl Comic Club Podcast. Every time we record, we talk about comic books. On this week's show, we're just going to have one segment, which is the weekly reviews. That's where we go back and forth, talk about the books that we've been reading, whether they're new, whether they're old. We're going to talk about them there. So let's get right into it with the weekly reviews. All right, first up for me is Doughboys, the comic book. The beloved fast food review podcast is now a comic book. Wow! Tiger Weiger and Mike Mitchell's beloved Doughboys podcast comes to the page. When a cop takes one bite out of Weiger and Mitch's leftovers, he immediately dies, causing our duo to go on the run and on the bun as they make their way across America, hiding in In-N-Goat, Nacho Dame, Little Romulus, and other parodies of fast food chains as delicious as the puns are rough. The comic features guest stars such as Evan Susser, John Gabris, and many, much more. It says many, much more. I think that's right. Wow! This comic is done by Alex Fearer, Fred C. Stressing, Meg Casey, Charlie Edlin, Michael Mitchell, Evan Susser, Tiger Weiger, and Josh Frankel. Okay, a little preamble before I get into the meat of this story. Doughboys is a podcast where they review fast food restaurant chains, starring Nick Weiger and Mike Mitchell. They just recently celebrated episode 500, I believe. It's available as an audio podcast. They have a Patreon for a bunch of extra podcasts. They have YouTube video versions for the last handful of years. And it's very much a mature-rated podcast. So if you're thinking like, hey, I like fast food, I'll hear what these people say. There's a lot of, potty humor and vulgar stuff like that when it comes to the kind of humor. So I'm just saying that ahead of time. They are a combination of people that are either writers, actors. Nick has worked on Comedy Bang Bang, the television show, writing sketches and things like that, playing some characters on Comedy Bang Bang. Mike Mitchell has had sketch comedy and improv, and you may recognize him as kind of like a recurring character in the background over in Parks and Recreation. Netflix's Love. He was in the Tomorrow War, the Amazon Prime movie that starred Chris Pratt. And then currently Mike Mitchell is in Twisted Metal on Peacock. So that's just a little info on the people that actually have now teamed together with the creators that I mentioned, which some of them have credits for the Rick and Morty comics, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't read any of those. I don't know anything about Rick and Morty, but I could assume the type of humor and the translation from a show to a comic. I think that team was very well a good choice because they too are fans and presented this idea to the Doughboys, from what I understand, to take their now 10-year podcast and turn it into a 6-issue limited comic. It is through the website beourkids.com. Kids might be with a Z. I know it says that on the box here, and I don't know if the website is accurate like that as well. But this is something that just kind of came out of nowhere. So it was like less than a month and it was in our hands. So it was kind of cool to know that, to not know it was in production. And for someone like me, being a big Doughboys fan, now this crosses over into the world of comic books as well. So when reviewing this book, when reading this book, I was trying to think of like how accessible would this be, a 10-year podcast about food restaurant reviews? How is this going to translate to somebody who would just randomly pick this up? Now, you'd have to know about the website and the podcast to stumble upon this. But now that I'm talking about it and reviewing it, I'll say that if you're a big fan of comedy, it's packed with jokes. I'll show off some of the art examples. there's just here's an opening splash page to kind of get an idea. You got a cartoony versions of Nick and Mitch over here, and ultimately it is about them playing themselves. Now on the podcast, they have when they rate these restaurant chains. I think Kirby is ordering up some fast food right now as we're talking. When they review fast food chains, they give it a fork rating at the end. And based on, they always have a guest with them. And based on the reviews, they either get it into the Golden Plate Club or the Platinum Plate Club. And when it's in the Platinum Plate Club, that's the highest tier. Well, that is kind of what this issue is surrounded around, is that they've opened up the Platinum Plate Club in a form of museum, a fast food museum. So it has these guys that review fast food. They're opening up a museum, and they realize that like nobody really cares and nobody shows up. And what's really cool about this is that this comic actually dives into them recording the podcast. So I didn't know how deep it was going to get into the actual Doughboys, what it is. I thought maybe it would just kind of exaggerate, which it does eventually exaggerate some things. But I like that you actually see like moments of how they structure their podcast. So it's got a lot of comedy, a lot of jokes. There's a lot of references that, are going to be over a lot of people's heads if they don't know the lore of the podcast. But I think there's enough in here that is going to still be entertaining. The art is just there's a lot of dialogue. There's just a lot of background stuff. There's this cool splash page, which kind of takes us through a map of like every one of these locations is just like a reference to something from the podcast. But what's funny is that they're the commissioner of the podcast, Evan Susser, who I think he has like writing credits and he works with within the Hollywood industry like both of them do. And he always shows up on the podcast like when he's excited about getting a free meal off the Doughboys dime. So they go off of that theme in this book where they're ready to record, and basically the smell streams of like the smell lines like in old cartoons, like if you had a smell line from like a blueberry pie on a windowsill or something. So Evan Susser smells this that they're reviewing food, and then he just shows up on the podcast, unannounced. And so yeah, like I said, there's a lot of references. We do see them go to the restaurant as they are reviewing the In and Goat, which is a burger parody restaurant. But that's half of the book. The other half of the book, and this is all set up, it's not given away, just leaving it all spoiler free. The other half of the book is that there's a murder happening, and on the victim, they find a fork score rating. What I mentioned, the fork score when they rate their restaurants. And there's a cop that's working on the force that is a Doughboys fan and knows what this is all about. And they realize, well, we have somebody who turned up dead. We don't know who the suspect is. But now we have a clue that this person knows something about this Doughboys podcast. So the cops show up at the door to at their studio to question them about this murder. And as the synopsis said, then they're on the run now that they're suspects in a murder. So half the book is taken off of the real life podcast that exist on iTunes and YouTube and Patreon, and the other half is bringing into the comic book element of the fun, the adventure, and the craziness. A lot of great art, so if you're looking for that too, I think you'll be entertained. But I will say that there are probably going to be things just being like, all right, there's a lot happening in this book. A lot of it is very fan servicey in a great way because it's directly marketed to the Doughboys fans. It's not out on a comic book shelf or, someone to walk by when they're picking up their Spider-Man issues or something. So it is very much geared towards this very specific audience. There will be 6 issues. The first issue that came out, which I'll give the full title here, it is Doughboys the Comic Book, Mitch and Weiger Chew America, Crisis on Infinite Girths. So there's a lot of just, food puns and comic puns and stuff like that. One of the coolest things that I was not expecting, now knowing that this was going to be sold directly to the fans, kind of wondering, all right, limited print run, not as much exposure. How much is this book going to cost? I saw a $20 price tag on a 32-page comic, but that 32-page comic for issue 1 came with a random toy of either Nick or Mitch. And of course, I had to buy 2 issues because I wanted to press my luck. And they most likely saw that 2 issues were going to the one address, and they probably just paid me a favor and just like, all right, let's give them both. I don't know if they do that for everybody or if it is as random as they say, but I wanted both of the action figures of these. Big fan of both of them. They're hilarious and fun, and I like them outside of the podcast. And now I have these little action figures. They had variant cover options. They have other options of pre-ordering the entire 6-issue run and getting extra bonuses. I'm definitely going to keep picking them up. I'm excited to see what they do next. So this is Doughboys, the comic book, something that I didn't know about a month ago for a podcast that is my favorite podcast to watch and listen to and re-listen to. And here it is as a comic book now. So super awesome. The recommendation, if anybody were to check out the podcast, once again, mature audiences, if you go through their feed, they have a lot of celebrity guests, a lot of actors and stuff like that. If you just see a name that you like, whether it's like Paul Scheer, Jason Mantzoukas, there's a lot of great comedians that show up on the podcast. Nicole Byers on there a couple times. They get a couple people that are kind of like big gets if they get them for like one time or something. So my advice is always to look through at their guest list. And if you see somebody that you like, you're already going in a positive vibe, being like, hey, I really like the guest, and now let's see what these guys have to offer. So anyways, Doughboys podcast, after being a big fan, I probably gained more weight than I wanted to because they talk about Domino's and I'm like, I'm hungry for Domino's now. So I won't eat this comic book though. So there we go. Doughboys, the comic book. Wow. Oh wait, I should give it a fork score rating. The 1 to 5 forks. I give this 5 forks. There we go. Kirby.
All right. I got Robo Force Zero, which I recognize the name, but I don't think I ever watched Robo Force comics or cartoons at all back in the day. This is written by Matt Hodson, artist E.J. Sue, colors by Ren Spiller, and letters by Ghost Glyphs Taylor Esposito. But basically, you got a couple different head characters. This guy, and she's one of the heads of Sectors. She's got her little alien head, her little spikes coming up. So I'm like, why is there a Sectors person in this comic? And it's Robo Force, but there might be some type of crossover back in the day for those. This is a sketch cover, by the way. That's why. But they did have the regular cover on the inside, and this is the flip book, and so you get both covers. But they have this giant robot that they're building, and anytime anybody gets near it, it attacks them instantly. And they have it in a cage at this moment, and they're testing it out, seeing, and everybody that goes near it just goes crazy. But then our Sectors leader, she has the Sectors have the ability to get inside your mind with their little antennae that they use, but they can control people's minds. She tries it out on the robot, and sure as heck, she's able to take control of the robot so she can walk around out in the public with it and use it as a protector with her or whatever she wants. But it's only about 7 pages. Just a quick intro to this, being number 0, a little prequel through it. And the other side is the biker mice from Mars issue 1. And in that Robo Force story, it says some things that are in association with biker mice from Mars. So I think that's why they did these two together, because it's they're going to have some big crossover in the events. I think biker mice is another 5-issue run, unless this one's going to be an ongoing. But they're dealing with the fish people again, like usual, having to deal with them. They're coming in with a ton of tanks and stuff and fish people to attack the mice area, and the biker mice from Mars. You still see them from the first 5-issue run, where they crossed over the biker mice with the military mice. They're still under that layout from that storyline, which is nice. They're not starting the storyline newer, fresher, going a different route or anything like that. So you do see the 3 biker mice from Mars characters, but you also see the military ones come in to assist them. And there's quite a few of the fish people that get taken out, and they have a huge amount of them there for this battle, but it's basically a thing, a ploy, just a distraction to keep them from knowing what they're really working on. And there's where you see some of the military characters with the biker mice. And all of a sudden, while everybody's relaxing, thinking they won the battle and everything's good, there's a volcano close by and it erupts and basically destroys the whole biker mice village, I guess you could call it. But yeah, there's a lot of characters get taken out and stuff, family members and stuff, because of the volcanic eruption. But then once it mellows out and stuff, they go inside the volcano and find out that there was something that helped it erupt, and they realize that it's was basically set up by the fish people, and that was their whole plan, to basically sneak attack them later on. And they got other plans in the near future, but I'm really curious what's going to happen with Robo Force once it crosses over with biker mice. And hopefully, if they got that robot, they're on the biker mice side, because that robot's going to pretty much do a lot of damage to who's left and what's left. But yeah, this was fun. I was worried they were going to start a whole fresh story with it, but thankfully they're continuing where the people are and everything. You're getting to see the one character deal with his mom and stuff. But yeah, the Celliverse is still going strong.
And I assume the biker mice story is longer than the Robo one, like based on.
Yeah. The Robo, it's kind of funny because the Robo Force one's shorter, but it says plus flip this book for an action-packed Biker Mice Mars bonus feature. And it's like Biker Mice Mars is probably about 20 pages or so. But yeah, it's definitely a way longer story on the Biker Mice side.
Yeah. Cool. All right, we are going to jump over to Katie. What you got for us?
Okay, this week I'm bringing Godzilla versus the Fantastic Four.
Awesome.
Written by Ryan North, art by John Romita Jr. doing the pencils, inks are by Scott Hanna, colorist is by Marcio Menez, and VC's Travis Lanham coming in with the letterers. I decided to pick this book up because we read Godzilla versus the Avengers a few weeks ago with the club, and I thought that was super fun, a good monster punch 'em up, and just wanted to keep that going. And looks like this is kind of the first book that came out in this mini series, although I don't think you got to really read them all together to be able to understand it. So let's jump into it. The Fantastic Four are fighting Godzilla, who is attacking New York City. We see Godzilla going after landmarks like the Statue of Liberty, the Empire State Building, and then they're trying to guide Godzilla towards the Baxter Building. And Reed has a plan that he's going to rewire the power grid to take all the power in New York State and use it to zap Godzilla. And he's going to be a noble hero. And then the rest of the Fantastic Four are like, yeah, no, we're coming to help you, bruh. And it looks like things are, settling down. They zap Godzilla with, I guess, the world's biggest bug zapper. And all of a sudden, the sky starts to turn flame red. We got red sky with orange clouds. And let's see. Reed says, well, the last time this happened, it's because the Watcher was trying to shield Earth from Galactus and Peril. And they're saying, well, it can't be that because the Surfer, doesn't have the power cosmic right now. He's not the Herald of Galactus. So they're kind of confused what's going on. And then this three-headed dragon, a Hydra, if you will, King Ghidorah, has shown up to try and destroy the Earth. This is the new Herald of Galactus, and it has the power cosmic in addition to its regular powers, so it can do some major damage. And things aren't looking good for a while. The Silver Surfer does show up. It's a Fantastic Four book, so got to have that in there. And he's going to try and help. But again, still, it's really powerful. So they're like, what are we going to do? And they realize, hey, we're mortal. We don't have the power cosmic. We can't fight him. But you know who can? Godzilla. So they re-zap Godzilla. The Silver puts all of his power cosmic into Godzilla. And Godzilla and Ghidorah have a big epic monster fight. And the Fantastic Four get some good punches in as well. A lot of awesome splash pages in here. And Godzilla wins the day, and Ghidorah is sent back off into the universe, no longer with the power cosmic and freed from the control of Galactus. What are Galactus's plans next? I guess we're going to have to see. And will Godzilla continue to help or harm the superhero community of Earth? Super fun book. I enjoyed this so much. I think if you are a Godzilla fan or a kaiju fan and you haven't read a lot of comic books, you'll still get a lot out of this and enjoy it. Because honestly, the two genres of superheroes and kaiju and Godzilla have a lot in common. So I think you'll get a lot out of this. The art is really good. I thought it was really sharp. And we get to see each of the kaiju, get to use their special power attacks, so that's exciting. The humor of the Fantastic Four was there. I like Ben Grimm the best. I think the Thing is the best out of this. I often find Reed Richards honestly a little hard to deal with because he's so on arrogance sometimes.
That's on point.
But in this book, I actually felt like I liked him more in this book. I found him more likable, a little bit like, I could probably handle him. And I thought it was a good balance of, using your talents to save the day versus, only I can be the brave hero that can do this. My only critique isn't Sue Storm like 40 years old? I think she should be the Invisible Woman and not the Invisible Girl. And I know that's, what they named her back in the 60s, so I get it. But I think that could do with a little bit of a glow up. Just a personal opinion that takes nothing away from this book or these characters. Extremely fun book. I enjoyed it. If you've not read a lot of Fantastic Four, which I only have limited knowledge of them, you'll still be able to enjoy this book. And it hits all the notes of classic Fantastic Four stories, so that's good. A lot of fun. I thought it was good value, and you can read it as a standalone or part of this mini series, and just a super fun summer comic with a lot of great notes of, blockbusters that are just so enjoyable and really make the superhero and the kaiju genre stand out. Anyway, that is my review of Godzilla versus the Fantastic Four. Check it out.
Cool. And when you had referenced the episode, we talked about the Godzilla versus the Avengers, and that issue put it into the timeline of the new Avengers. And I'm curious, I'm pretty sure this Fantastic Four issue's in my stack yet, so I'm excited to check it out. I'm curious to see what time period it actually is intended to kind of go, kind of answer your question on if she is the Invisible Girl or if it's a modern take on it, which then, she should be the Invisible Woman.
Yeah.
I'll look closely into that, see if I see any clues on if there's a specific time frame that they are kind of blocking the Fantastic Four or I'm assuming they're just kind of taking it out of continuity wherever. Yeah. But I'll follow up on that if I find any answers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I hope you enjoy it when you read it.
Oh, I'm extra excited now, so. Okay, I am jumping over to the next one. I looked up several pronunciations, so I am just going to go with Los Monstruos. Number 1. The time is the 1950s, and the place is a very unique American city. Los Monstruos is entirely populated with classic monsters from movies and folklore. Vampires, man-monsters, werewolves, mummies, and many other fantastic creatures. Perry Cutter, who is a werewolf PI, has just foiled the Gillman kidnapping when another case falls into his lap. The case? Finding a missing vampiress. Seems simple enough until Perry realizes he must walk a razor's edge between crime boss and pyramid casino owner and the hard-boiled team of vampire cops known as the Night Shift. Perry is reminded yet again that nothing in the city is simple. Come visit Los Monstruos in a wild, wonderful city full of monsters and mystery. This comic is done by James Robinson, Jesus Marino, KJ Diaz, and Jim Campbell. I absolutely love this. I bought this because I saw some recognizable monsters. I saw a Gilman related character on the cover, not knowing, how much he was going to be part of it. It's very little, at least for this first issue. But right away, I'm like, yep, I'm going to have to make sure I subscribe to the other ones. Yeah, so this one I was just attracted to because of the title, seeing some monsters. I don't really go towards detective type PI stories. Those aren't normally my genre that I specifically go for. But I thought it was an interesting take on taking that genre, especially with the 1950s, and giving it like a monster makeover, if you will. So what's really cool about this city is that it's a very specific city that was built for the monsters to live and exist basically in peace, I guess, or just to live as normal as you and I. And here's a cool splash page that kind of shows off. It's your everyday looking city, whatever your billboards, your skyscrapers, your signs, your business, busy streets. But as I zoom in here, you'll just start seeing everybody is populated. There's a bunch of different monsters that are walking around. Everybody is just having a normal time, just going through life, and it's cool to see what characters are lurking about, and it's really cool, kind of the world that they've built, especially when we get into the police station, because our star, the PI Perry Cutter, used to work for the police department, and he hints at a firing, and he talks with a former partner, and he sees an old boss, and even when you go into the police department. You see, they're all populated with monsters too. There's a giant Sasquatch just walking around, just working, and the chief, or the let's see here, the internal affairs, yeah, I don't know what kind of position, but basically the boss. But you have like a Bride of Frankenstein style person there, so there's just a really cool idea just to kind of recast monsters into everyday human roles, if you will, and they all still exist as monsters. So you got the vampires in there, like they're still existing with like vampire lore and such like that. But it's really cool that this Perry guy, who on the cover and within the first page when he's running down, he appears to be a human until he kind of has a Superman moment of opening up his coat and loosening his tie and transforming into a werewolf right in the opening scene to help catch the suspect at hand. Yeah, there's just a lot of really cool concepts. The dialogue is really well done for your 1950s era. It's just detective type of thing with like the monologues, and it's not like full blown Sin City type of narration, but it has hints of that to really fit the time. And I think even the color palette and stuff too, just with kind of going with a lot of the browns and tans and stuff like that, kind of really sets the tone for kind of the genre that they're going for. And yeah, I'm real curious. I don't know how many issues this is going. This is Dark Horse. Could be 4, could be 5, could be 6. I don't know. But after reading this one, just kind of giving the first one a shot, I am making sure that I'm going to pre-order the upcoming issues of this. So yeah, this was a lot of fun. Really, really cool concept. So Los Monstros, number 1.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I always wish that Men in Black would do a future, like either a movie or a book, where everybody accepts the aliens, and all of a sudden we see them all over doing
Yeah,
regular jobs and all that stuff. I thought that would be a more fun look at it.
yeah, it would be cool. I'd see it.
I got EC Comics Blood Type issue 1, and I was surprised by this one. We have our Gravedigger type character. It starts us out, gives us the information of what's going on. This is written by Corina Beshko, art by Andrea Sorrentino, colors by Dave Stewart, lettering by Richard Starkings, and comics Tyler Smith, and then a variety of artists and stuff. But basically, I knew it was going to be vampire related, but it doesn't have that normal EC Comics format because this is just one story in this whole book. I'm used to having 2 or 3 stories for their little Gravedigger introductions and stuff like that. But we get a gal that talks her way onto a ship, and the captain, he's all up for letting her come with him on the journey. The members of the ship are like, well, that will put a curse on the ship if we bring a woman on back in those days. And all of a sudden, people start disappearing. Captain's trying to figure it out, talking to the men and everything, trying to figure out what's going on. His first mate's one of the first ones that go, of course. And then they get close to land, and they get to this island where they're gonna, where the ship was headed, and we see these big vampire bats that just go flying off, which was kind of weird because all it is the one gal on the ship, and when they hit landfall, prior to landfall, she kind of like does her little Jedi mind trick on the captain, and gets him to tell the police that we got it. Basically, the whole crew's dead, and eventually he tells the police that he killed them. So instead of saying they don't understand what happened, who killed who, or what was going on, but seeing multiple bats fly at her, I'm like, okay, well, she's not on the ship anymore. So I was assuming one of the bats were like her flying off, but it's weird that they had that variety of them. But then she comes up to a little rat on a fruit basket and asks the rat some directions. He gives her directions because, of course, if you're a vampire, you can talk to the animals. And she runs into a few people on here, and she starts to hear these stories about, well, did you hear? She mentions about hearing something about people being dead. The person she talks to thinks she's talking about people on the island that died, and she was talking about people on the ship. And she finds out that people are saying there's vampires on this island. It's like it's not nothing new or original. She's bringing up the information to them, and they're telling her that there's other things going on this island because people have been missing continuously. And you see a lady here that was just made some comments, was kind of rude to some people, and she gets chased through the woods until she gets attacked and eaten. We find that there's this is a pretty decent picture for it. You basically got a bunch of bodies hanging in a cavern, and then there's a pool of blood underneath a collection pool. And so she starts getting into more of a detective mode, trying to find out who are the vampires, where they're hiding out, and yeah, she gets deep into the community, keeps trying to figure out things, keeps getting her own teeth uh, covered in blood with different types of people from the community, and she just I don't know if she's gonna try and join up with people, if she's gonna try and take out the other vampires, but we do get information that it's not just vampires on this island. There's other things that's going on. So I'm curious where it goes, but I was really surprised that it was only one story in the book. But that's fine with me. If it's a decent ongoing story, I'm good with that. Because I think this is only supposed to be like 5 issues or something like that, whereas some of the other ones went 12 issues. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the future.
And with the blank sketch cover, you can maybe draw 2 more stories onto one cover. Maybe you can.
Yeah.
All right, looking at my next one here, I was excited to see this coming back for another miniseries, Ghostbusters: Dead Man's Chest. Um, the Ghostbusters increasing notoriety is throwing them for a loop. While Trevor steadies himself by trying to plan a friendiversary celebration for him and Lucky, Phoebe meets someone who might be a real friend instead of just a social media follower. But friendships new and old have to take a back seat to the more immediate concerns when a ghostly saber summons the ghost of Captain Kidd and threatens to transform NYC into a ghostly pirate town. This comic is done by David M. Booher, Avid Orr, Chris Peter, and Comic Craft's Jimmy Betancourt. This is, I think, the second miniseries following up after the Frozen Empire. I think Frozen Empire took place after Afterlife and before Frozen Empire, the 2 more recent Ghostbusters movies. But I was excited to see another miniseries come out with these characters. We have the Callie and Gary. We mentioned Phoebe and Trevor. We do get to see Dan Aykroyd's Ray Stanson here as well, so it's cool to see him still part of the franchise and in the role of the newer movies. He's got his little shop. I forgot what the name was here, but they cut to it here. But yeah, so Phoebe still has the friendship with Ray, Phoebe being the granddaughter of Egon Spengler. Ray's occult books, that's what it was from the newer movies. So we see the familiar landmarks. We have the main family living in the firehouse. What's cool is that we see Phoebe trying to exist at the Zetamore Academy. So going off of Winston's academy that he has for similar type people, as the ghosts are coming back into the world and the Ghostbusters are popular again. But Phoebe kind of went from being an outcast and being the dork and the dweeb, but now she's gotten to the part where everyone wants a picture with her because she's a famous Ghostbuster, and that doesn't change her personality one bit because she doesn't want anything to do with these people who a year ago or whatever the time frame is wanted nothing to do with her. But this story is introducing a new character, Sammy, who Phoebe sits down with. And a cool thing, one thing I like that McKenna Grace's character from the movies, she kind of broke the ice by telling like a nerdy science joke, like something like Sheldon would say on The Big Bang Theory. So she goes up and she goes, "Do you know why the comedian bombed at the art show?" And Sammy goes, "Because the jokes got sketchy." And then, then she like felt comfortable sitting down next to Sammy. And even when they leave, they have an exchange of jokes too. So it's a cool gimmick that the writers from the comic have picked up from the movie trait of the character. But yeah, so it's kind of cool to kind of see her kind of settle into this newfound fame when she's not comfortable with it. Paul Rudd's character, Gary, is just written very well. It's a Paul Rudd just telling cheesy dad jokes and puns and stuff like that, and just being the dumb one out of all of them, basically. And I should talk about the ghost a little bit. So we have an opening action scene in which they're at this art museum, and we have this person here who is actually a little upset. There's a lot of bad art in this art museum. So it's this ghost that it's a one-time artist, I assume. But basically, he is kind of unleashing hell within this art museum, and the Ghostbusters are there to basically are there for the action and do what they can to bust this ghost. That's just kind of your opening teasing story, but as the synopsis mentioned, we do have, and what the title suggests, of Dead Man's Chest. So the cool cover that I picked up here is the Ecto 1 kind of, I forget if it's actually called 1 anymore, but maybe Ecto 3 in there. Um, Kind of being chased away from this like kind of ghostly pirate ship here. We get a little tease into the ghost pirate stuff. It's definitely one of your setups, kind of like, all right, let's go pick up issue 2 now. So, the cover alludes to this, but that's just kind of alluding to the overall story. We'll see if we actually see a ghost ship, a literal ghost ship flying around. But yeah, this all said it in the synopsis, so I'm not gonna stumble over talking about it, but there is a saber. There's a character in this book that has this saber that unleashes this pirate ghost, and that's kind of like part of like how this gets thrown into the story. And yeah, that's something, we haven't seen anything like that. I'm excited for just kind of opportunities with the comic books to get more ghosts. These movies can only come out once every 3 years if we're lucky. I have no idea if they're working on another one and how the other one did or anything like that. So I hope they at least keep the tradition over the last decades when they've always made Ghostbusters comics. I know there's a new animated series for I don't know if it's the team of the real Ghostbusters or if it is more real Ghostbusters, but if anything with these movies, I just hope that just means we keep getting more Ghostbusters content in any sort of medium, and I'm excited to check it out. But yeah, I don't think I have anything more to say, but I believe this is a 4-issue miniseries from Dark Horse, Ghostbusters, Dead Man's Chest.
Yeah, I was going to do the trade on that, but I do like how they're continually pushing all the characters from all the different things together and just keep
Yep.
going with it. So hopefully
And
they'll stick with that routine.
and about 10 years ago, I know I talked about it on the club in the early days, but they had a Ghostbusters 101, I think it was, or no, I think it was literally called Ghostbusters Crossover. Whatever the title ended up being, that's where it took every iteration of all of the movie cast, the male and female cast. It took all the different cartoon iterations, took every kind of version of Ghostbusters and did the multiverse thing. They jumped onto the trend, but it was a good way of just like mixing up all the cool designs and attitudes and stuff. And so yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool to
that's
see
the
that.
crossing over one, right?
I think so.
Not crossover, because I
Yeah,
have the crossing over.
crossing over, yeah. And I was
It
trying to
jumps,
think of
fixed them
Ghostbusters
all.
10. I'm trying to think of 101. That might have been just the female Ghostbuster cast in their own series as well, because I think that was separate from the crossing over. So yeah, good.
Cool.
All right.
All right, it's Superman time. This is Krypto, the last dog on Krypton. If you get the sketch cover, this cover is underneath the sketch cover also. So you do get the double coverage with that. But this, I liked it, but it's got those moments where you feel bad for things. But I love this opening page. Krypto laying on his bed, all happy, dreaming away. And then, of course, he gets, oh yeah, Superman's parents and Krypto talking about, well, they're going over what's happening with the planet, with that it's not going to last. They're going to have to get off the planet. They're trying. People are working on some ships for people, but they also have their own ships that they're putting together. So they got the one for the super baby in the future, and they got to do some test runs and stuff. And Krypto is going to be the first non-robotic test. Well, I guess they were just empty ships that they tested stuff out in. But things are getting to that point where they got to do something now, and this is you got to show that picture too. Them laying together, snapping together, just so happy.
Baby Kal-El.
Yeah, baby Kal-El and Krypto just in their comfort zone. But then they decide to do a launch with Krypto in the ship and do a test launch. And of course, something goes awry, and there's the takeoff. But it goes through like a vortex type thing. Not, I don't think it's a black hole, but you do get where they lose communication to Krypto. They're talking to Krypto, keeping Krypto calm, and then he goes through this big old vortex and ends up coming to a planet and crashing. And thankfully, it's planet Earth. But poor Krypto made it through the space launch, thankfully. Crashed, and then he's like all alone and has to decide, figure out what to do, find food and all that stuff. Uh, and of course, here's just him traveling after the crash. I don't want to go beyond that because I don't want to ruin things that come up. But yeah, he, of course, trying to get some food. People are rude to the animals and all that stuff, and gotta throw things at him, yell at him, and all that. So you feel bad for Krypton. And then he finds someone that kind of like notices that he's having a hard time and kind of helps him out. And that's, you're gonna have to read the book to find out what happens with that. But it's a very fun way they did it. I don't know enough Superman lore to know if any of this connects with other stuff in the past. But yeah, I was happy with the way this first issue ended. I just felt bad for Krypto. I always hate hearing about animals in space.
Yeah. Still non-spoiler, but from my knowledge, I think everything seems pretty accurate, just a modern take on it, minus the last page. I'm pretty sure that is the different part. I
Okay.
could be wrong, but I think that's a different take on it. So
Yeah, and then I just worry about timeline wise. It's like, oh, when the baby gets to Earth and Krypto being on Earth already, and seeing the movie little clips and stuff and seeing Krypto with the older Superman, it's like that would make Krypto being like a 20, 25-year-old dog. But again, I don't know the lore. I don't know if because of being from uh Krypton and
yeah,
they age slower or stuff like that. I'm sure that's part of it. But
and
yeah, I had that in my mind for a while.
and depending on what they're doing with the current comic version, whether or not this is a standalone thing or not, but like an example of how you mentioned with the aging and everything, like because in the story, Supergirl is the one that is sent, and then she is kind of halted in space, and basically Kal-El lands. He grows up, and now it's like she's the older cousin initially, if I'm not mistaken. But then, based on the problem with her travel and the success of his travel, they basically swaps age spot. All of a sudden she became like a younger cousin in that sense, even though she's the older one. So I know that's one iteration. I don't know if that's like the main canon one, but so yeah, I'm sure there's some sort of Kryptonian
Yeah,
export.
except
Yeah,
I feel like Kal-El aged normally on Earth.
yeah, that's
So
true. Yeah,
that's why I don't know. Those things just always stick in my mind.
but yeah, and
But
yeah,
I'm looking forward to. I think it's a 5-issue run.
yep, I got all those pre-ordered as well. I like that first one, so.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that'll do it then for the weekly reviews. Since we just talked about Krypto, I will skip ahead in my plugs to mention that, we're recording at the weekend that Superman came out. I have seen the movie twice, absolutely loved it. One of the cool things about the second screening is that there was a little kid that was in the next section over to me that normally, I'll kind of scoff if like people are talking and whatever during the theater, but this kid was so excited for Krypto the whole time. Um, you know, let's say the kid was like 6 or something based on the tone of their voice. But everything that was happening with Krypto, they were cheering Krypto on. They were excited when Krypto showed up,
Aw.
and that made the movie even better just the second time around of just having that, extra commentary from someone who was excited for Krypto. And then speaking more of Krypto, so I am a co-host over on Cartoonist by Night, a YouTube drawing show, and the most recent episode in the feed by the time this episode drops, we invited back Matt Hansel, Brian Lynch, and Greg Schmidt, and we just did kind of a random draw and talk, whatever. D. Brad Gibson was also in the episode with us. And because it was leading into Superman at the time of that recording, I drew some Krypto on the show. So here's the drawings I drew on the episode of Cartoonist by Night.
Oh.
And I just drew them on my crispy cards here, and
Mhm.
doing a bunch of different versions and angles and things like that. A couple different breeds here and there.
That's Krypto's girlfriend.
Okay.
Krypto's girlfriend.
Yeah.
And
Her eyes.
yeah, and actually that's one of those where I did like, normally I don't do a small dot eye as well, but it's kind of like an anime type of eye. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's what kind of brought it out, because I put that extra little dot reflection in there. And I initially Googled dogs midair, because I didn't want to look at Krypto images or drawings or movie stills. So I just wanted to look at actual dogs. So
Yeah.
just dogs jumping in the air. And that's what inspired this one here. So so there is a photo of a dog that jumped in the air like this, and I just put a cape on him.
Whee!
Yeah, when you said dogs in midair, I'm thinking people throwing them.
Oh yeah. From the Google results, it looked like it was at their own, discretion to jump in the air for a toy or something. But yeah, Krypto was amazing in the movie, and a lot of fun, and yeah. Anyways, so yeah, Cartoonist by Night, that's the first plug. We'll get back to the normal round of plugs with crimsoncowl.com for info and original web comics, Crimson Cowl Comic Club on iTunes for the audio version. And if you are listening to the audio version and you wanted to see those drawings that I just showed, or some of the panels that we've been pointing out and showing off in our reviews, then subscribe to Crimson Cowl Comic Club over on YouTube for what is the full video experience of the episode. And then always subscribe, rate, and review to help the show. Kirby, you have Under the Cowl of MS. You want to tell people what's been going on or what to expect?
Yeah, same old going on right now for the past month or so, putting out comic reviews and unboxings, and then the past probably past month or so, been back to Monday claim sales. So if you're looking for $1, $2, and $3 comics, mostly with free shipping, one of the guys charges shipping, but yeah, check this out. Check out my YouTube and just look up the live feeds, and that's where you can find all the people that I do the claims with.
Cool. Yeah, so definitely subscribe to Under the Cowl of MS over on YouTube, as well as the other social media platforms. All right, and then I mentioned Cartoonist by Night. I have some art accounts, Anthony Laatsch, LAATSCH, over on Instagram and Facebook. I haven't been posting as much. I did post all those Kryptos, but I am working on the 3rd issue of Rice Christopher, my self-published comic book. Hopefully due out in the fall. There's no specific release, just based on it, but right now, pretty good progress on it. So, and this episode, by the time it airs, I would have just come back from Comicopolis. So this is me just guessing that it went very well. So thank you, everyone, for coming out to Comicopolis in Lockport, Illinois. First time doing that library show. I'm sure I'm going to have a great time, because we are recording this in the past right now. And the next show on the docket, during the comic making season, I haven't been doing as many shows, but myself and David will return to Milwaukee MightyCon, or Milwaukee Comic Con, whatever it's branded at the moment. That is in September sometime, so just go to our social media and Milwaukee Comic Con, MC conventions, and all that stuff to see us out on the road. And I know David's been cooking up some stuff behind the scenes too. So hopefully we'll both have some new stuff in addition to art. Actually, I know he's going to have new prints, because we just got an order in the mail. I ordered a bunch of new coloring sheets that I
Ooh.
handed out at Lockport, Illinois, that all the kids enjoyed. But I have new
Good.
designs, not new designs, I'll say old designs, but now as coloring sheet versions that I redid them in
Hmm.
black and white. So my Howard the Ducky is now a coloring sheet. My my Beetlejuice and Little Shop of Horrors, Beetle Shop, if you will. That one is a coloring sheet. One of my more original ones, my Dandelion, the little girl that was walking her pet giraffe through a field of dandelions, that is now a coloring sheet. And one more, oh, the Happy Astronaut, the pinup that's in issue number 2
Hmm.
of Happy Astronaut. I redid that one as a black and white drawing as a coloring sheet. So yeah, come out to the shows and get those coloring sheets if I didn't already give all of them away. But I'll just order more. They're a lot of fun. So yeah, a lot of more coloring sheets to put out there in the world. And then David got a whole bunch of new prints, a lot of 4x6 prints that he's been doing. And he's got a couple new big poster print designs too that I don't think he's posted online. So there's definitely going to be some fun new stuff from Crimson Cowl Media this September 2025 at the Milwaukee Comic Con. All right. That is going to do it then for this episode. I think we covered everything, just did a couple plugs out of
Hmm.
order. And yep, that'll do it. So thank you everybody for watching. If you like the show, please tell a friend, share the show. All of that fun stuff helps our show grow. This whole time, I've been part of both Spoon Nation and the Burger Brigade.
I've been lost in space with mice, bats, and dogs.
And I've been the invisible girl woman thing.
To be continued.